All right, summoners, buckle up. We're diving headfirst into League of Legends patch 25.S1.2. And let me tell you, this ain't your average patch. We're talking a brand new champion, big changes to ranked, Swiftplay getting shaken up, and even some love for our Mac peeps.
Yeah, this patch is packed. Riot's really hitting all the angles here. I mean, they're responding to real-world stuff, making sure everyone has a smooth experience no matter what system they're on. Even tweaking those Blue Essence and XP systems based on what players have been saying.
It's more than just numbers this time around, for sure. And speaking of real-world stuff, Riot's stepping up big time for those affected by those LA wildfires, with some pretty awesome in-game fundraisers in League A&E Valorant.
Yeah, it's really great to see them using their platform to make a difference outside the game, too.
Yeah.
Especially for something so close to home for them. 100% of proceeds from firefighter Tristana sales going to disaster recovery, that's a big move.
Totally. Okay, let's switch gears for a second, talk tech. Mac users, the day has finally arrived. Vanguard anti-cheat is officially rolling out with this patch. No more feeling like second-class citizens on the Rift.
This has been a long time coming. And it's super important now with cheaters getting more and more clever, trying to exploit Mac systems thinking they're less protected. This levels the playing field, keeps things fair, which is huge E for competitive integrity, right?
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. But there is a small catch, right? Something about system requirements changing, too.
Yeah, there are a couple things to keep in mind. So for Mac users, Mac OS is moving from OpenGL to Metal for graphics soon. So if you're running older hardware, might be time to think about an upgrade, just to keep things running smooth. And Windows users, don't think you're off the hook either. There's a DirectX 11 upgrade coming your way too. So double check those minimum specs just to be safe.
Good point. Always good to be prepared, right? All right, on to the ranked changes. Looks like those Apex Duo MMR restrictions are back in place after being disabled at the start of the season. No more doing with your diamond friend if you're stuck in bronze.
Makes sense. It all goes back to that fairness thing. Ranked is supposed to be about individual skill, not about getting carried.
True, true. And here's where it gets really interesting. Feat of First Blood is gone. Vanished. Poof. Just like that.
I can't say I'm surprised, honestly. It always felt a bit too punishing. One mistake in the first few minutes could just snowball the whole game out of control.
Yeah, you're right. So what do we have instead?
Feat of Warfare. First team to 3 kills gets the bonus.
I wonder if that'll make the early game more cautious. Nobody wants to be the one to give up those 3 kills, right? Or could it actually lead to even more aggressive plays as teams try to grab that advantage early?
That's the million-dollar question. I think it'll definitely shake things up. We might see junglers focusing more on early ganks to try and secure those kills. Or maybe we'll see a rise in those super aggressive lane combos that can snowball quickly. It'll be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, definitely something to watch. Now for what you've all been waiting for. The moment we've all been waiting for. Mel has arrived. Arcane fans, are you freaking out right now?
The hype has been real. And from a lore perspective, her arrival is huge E, a champion who can manipulate memories and see spirits. Think of the possibilities. This could really shake things up in Runeterra.
I know, right? Okay, let's dig into those patch notes and see what she's all about. There's a lot to unpack here. First up, the balance changes. We've got a whole buffet of adjustments this time around.
It seems like Riot is really trying to fine-tune the meta after those massive preseason changes. We're seeing some love for champions who have been struggling, like Evelynn, Master Yi, Yuumi. But then there are nerfs for the ones who were maybe a bit too strong, like Irelia, Tahm Kench, Victor. It's all about finding that balance.
Exactly. Trying to get everyone on an even playing field. Now, what about item changes? Anything jumping out at you?
Lord Dominic's Regards and Mortal Reminder are both getting a price hike. But TIT, they're also packing more armor pin now. So it looks like Riot's trying to make them more appealing for taking down those tanky champs. But at a cost.
Classic trade-off. More power, more gold. Makes sense. What about Yuntel Wild Arrows? Looks like it got a pretty significant attack speed boost.
That's a big one. Could really shake up the ADC itemization meta. Right now, Collector is usually the go-to. But this buff might make Yuntel a much more appealing choice, especially in those long, drawn-out games.
Interesting. Speaking of changing things up, Swiftplay is getting its first major balance pass. Looks like Riot's been paying attention to which champs were running rampant in that fast-paced mode.
It was only a matter of time. Every new game mode goes through that phase. Certain champions just dominate. This is Riot's way of leveling the playing field and making things more interesting.
There's one change I'm really curious about. Something about extra gold from champion abilities no longer add into the enemy team's comeback gold. What's that all about?
Ah, yeah. This is a big one for champions like Gangplank, Pike, Twisted Fate, even Senna. They were basically funding their opponents' comebacks with their gold generation. Now, that extra gold won't trigger those comeback mechanics.
So it's a buff for those champs then, making them even stronger in Swiftplay. I wonder how that'll affect pick priority. Will they become must picks, or will people start banning them more often? So many possibilities.
It's a perfect example of how game mode-specific balancing can really shake up strategy. I'm excited to see how it plays out.
Me too. Okay, let's move on to another fan favorite mode, ARAM. Looks like Set and Sonar are getting some specific attention this patch.
Yeah, Set's W is taking a hit, but his Kieran E are getting buffed. Seems like Riot wants him to be more focused on engaging, less about just being a damage sponge.
Makes sense, makes sense. And what about Sona? Looks like her passive ability haste is getting toned down, but her damage and shielding are going up.
It's a classic power shift. They want her to still be a strong healer and support, but not completely dominate, just because of her passive. Will she still be as strong late game? Or does this push her towards a more early game playstyle? Interesting.
It's always a delicate balance with those support champs. And now for the news we've all been waiting for. ARURF is back peak.
Ah, yes. The return of pure, unadulterated chaos, Noxus map, crazy item cooldowns, all the usual shenanigans. I'm already trying to figure out who the OP picks are going to be this time around.
Oh, right. It's like a whole different game. Okay, let's wrap up this part of our deep dive with a quick look at the Mythic Shop. Lunar Revel is the theme this time around, with some stunning new prestige skins and chromas to snag, but there's also a bunch of stuff leaving the shop.
It's that time again. New shinies to covet, but also the last chance to grab anything you might have missed. The eternal struggle.
Well, you better act fast because a whole new batch of content is coming in patch 25.S1.2. We'll be back soon with even more analysis of the patch notes. But for now, take a deep breath, grab a snack, and we'll see you on the other side.
Welcome back, Summoners. Hope you're ready for round 2, because we're diving even deeper into patch 25.S1.2. We were just talking about those shiny new Lunar Revel skins, but believe it or not, there's still a TON to cover. We've got bug fixes galore and some interesting tweaks to Otacon and Blood Roses we need to unpack.
Oh, you're not kidding about those bug fixes. The list is seriously massive. We're talking everything from UI issues to ability interactions to... Wait, tower range is being off? Poor Caitlyn, that's got to mess with her sniping game.
Right. It just goes to show you how complex game development can be. There are so many moving parts and sometimes things slip through the cracks. But the good news is, Riot's clearly committed to squashing these bugs. Making the game the best it can be, they're not ignoring these issues, which is really important for player experience.
Totally agree with that. I'm particularly glad to see they're fixing those issues with Otacon's false life revive, messing with channeled abilities. Imagine channeling your ultimate only to have it interrupted by a sudden revive. Talk about a game changer in the worst way possible.
Oh, absolutely. That could totally throw a fight, or even a whole game. It's great that they're ironing out those wrinkles, making sure things work as intended. Speaking of Otacon, before we get into those changes, let's circle back to Mel and her abilities for a minute. What are your initial thoughts, just based on the patch notes?
Well, her kit seems like a really intriguing blend of damage, crowd control, and spirit manipulation. That whole thing about summoning spirits that can be infused with memories of her allies' abilities, that sounds super cool. I can already imagine some crazy combos and team plays emerging.
Right. It's definitely unique. And it has the potential to really shake up team compositions. It has a whole new layer of strategy to think about. Not just who you're playing, but whose abilities will synergize best with Mel's spirits.
I'm particularly fascinated by her ultimate. Trapping enemies in a realm of memories. That sounds seriously intense. I can't wait to see it in action.
It seems like a really powerful ability. But it also sounds like it requires some careful planning and positioning to use effectively. I could see it being used both offensively to lock down key targets and defensively to protect allies from harm.
For sure. It's going to be so much fun to see how players utilize her in different situations and team comps. Okay, let's shift back to those Otacon and Blood Roses changes. These seasonal mechanics have been, well, a little controversial, to say the least.
Yeah, they've definitely added some spice to the game, but there have been concerns about whether they were impacting balance and fairness, so it's not surprising that Riot's making some adjustments, trying to smooth things out.
The patch notes mention changes to both the spawn-in logic and the rewards, right?
Exactly. It looks like Riot's trying to make the spawn-in locations and forms more evenly distributed, so there's less randomness involved. They're also slightly nerfing Bloody Roses, specifically the XP and adaptive force you gain per rose.
So it sounds like they're trying to tone down the rewards a bit, make them less overwhelming and more in line with other objectives on the map. Makes sense. What about Otacon? What are the key changes there?
Well, the meter that determines whether you get the voracious or ruinous form is being adjusted. The goal seems to be to make it more predictable. Average players will probably see voracious Atacon more often, while pro players might encounter ruinous more frequently. And interestingly, the rewards for both forms are also getting nerfed, with voracious taking a bigger hit.
So they're trying to dial back the power of Atacon overall, while also making the whole form determination process a bit less random. I wonder how this will impact those epic late-game Atacon fights. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out in actual games.
Absolutely, these are significant changes. It'll take some time for players to adapt their strategies and truly understand the implications, but that's what makes League so fascinating. It's always evolving.
Speaking of evolving, let's take a closer look at how Riot is tweaking some of those vision runes in the domination tree. They've been getting a lot of attention lately.
Yeah, especially Deep Ward, Grizzly Mementos, and Sixth Sense. They're all getting some interesting adjustments that could shake up the way people approach vision control. Want to start with Deep Ward?
Sure, Deep Ward is getting a nice buff to its yellow trinket duration. That's got to be good news for players who love setting up vision and controlling the map.
It is. That extra duration means you can cover more ground, scout out enemy movements more effectively, which is especially crucial in the early game, when vision can really make or break a play.
Okay, what about Grizzly Mementos? Looks like they're getting a bit of a shakeup as well.
They are. The trinket haste you gain for each memento is going up, which means you'll get your trinket back faster. But there's a trade-off. The maximum number of mementos you can collect is going down. So it's about finding the right balance. You'll be able to ward more often, but you'll need to be more strategic about where you place those wards.
Ah, I see. It's not just about warding more, it's about warding smarter. Makes you really think about your vision control strategy. All right, last but not least, we have Sixth Sense, which is getting a nice cooldown reduction.
That's right. This means you'll have more frequent access to those sweet ability haste and vision bonuses it provides. It'll be interesting to see which champions benefit most from this change.
Maybe those who rely on quick bursts of speed or those who need that extra vision to make those clutch plays. All right, well, we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive, and there's still more to explore.
We're not done yet. We still need to talk about those prestige skins, the new chromas, and maybe even speculate a bit about the future of the meta.
I'm already getting excited. Well, Summoners, we're going to take a quick breather, but don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon to wrap up our exploration of patch 25.S1.2. All right, Summoners, we're back. Ready for the grand finale of our patch 25.S1.2 deep dive.
I know I am. We've got those gorgeous new skins and chromas to feast our eyes on. Plus, some final thoughts on what all these changes might mean for the future of the game.
Let's start with those prestige skins, especially that Mythmaker set. I'm personally loving 3 Honor Shen.
Oh, he's stunning. The artwork is just chef's kiss. That blend of traditional Lunar Revel aesthetics with Shen's whole ninja style, perfect.
Absolutely. And Mythmaker Jin and Nami. Shin's mask is giving me some serious Phantom of the Opera vibes, but like in a good way.
Right. It's a whole mood. And we can't forget about Prestige Mythmaker Cassiopeia. Those Prestige skins are always so sought after. And this one, incredible. The detail, the unique particle effects, it's next level.
It's true, it's true. Makes you realize that League's more than just a game, right? It's a whole world with lore, visuals, a passionate community. It's an experience.
You got it. Okay, before we wrap up, let's zoom out for a sec. Big picture time.
Bro.
What do you think all these changes mean for the future of League?
That's a good question. I think it shows that Riot's really dedicated to keeping things fresh and exciting for everyone. Whether you're a casual player or grinding ranked, they're listening to feedback, addressing concerns, always experimenting.
You can see in this patch for sure. They're tackling everything from champion balance and new game modes to visual updates and system improvements. They want to make sure League stays at the top of its game.
And that's why we love it. Always something new to discover, strategies to master, challenges to overcome.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are you most excited to try out in patch 25.S1.2? Will you be mastering Mel's spirit magic in ranked? Experimenting with new builds in Swiftplay? Or maybe embracing the beautiful chaos of ARUR?
Ooh, tough choices. I'm personally itching to get my hands on Mel, see how she shakes up the meta, but I'm also really curious about those changes to Feat of Warfare. That early game is going to be wild.
It's going to be epic. Well, Summoners, that's a wrap on our deep dive into League of Legends patch 25.S1.2. We've covered a ton, but the real adventure starts when you jump into the game. Explore the rift, have fun. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.